So I am delighted to be here with you all today and very excited to introduce our three speakers today. The first one is Evan O'Brien, who is he is the creative manager with the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum. And it's really terrific to have Evan here with his team all the way from Boston. They have a pretty fun program to share with us today. So come on out, Evan.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. On behalf of the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum, our executive, Sean P. Ford, Historic Tours of America, I thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you today about what we do. My name is Evan O'Brien, creative manager of the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum, but I am just one of a team of dedicated men and women that work together to tell the story of the single most important event leading up to the American Revolution, the Boston Tea Party. To begin this presentation today, I'd like to play a very brief video that I think summarizes our museum experience very well.
Since opening in 2012, the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum has educated and entertained over 1 million visitors from around the world.
I came this morning with my class and we had a fabulous day. The kids were engaged.
I was really impressed by my visit, the sheer amount of technology that was put in place and just the commitment from the folks that were participating.
It was very exciting and everyone was really excited about what they were doing.
Through a combination of live historic interpretation, colonial artifacts, high-tech interactive exhibits, and 2 fully restored 18th century ships, the award-winning experience transports visitors back in time to reenact the single most important event leading up to the American Revolution.
We were all given a part to play in the whole reenactment.
I actually loved when the pictures came alive.
The experience was fantastic. It was very immersive.
Got to throw the tea over, and that was really exciting.
Huzzah! So as you can see, the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum is a lot of fun. And we are part of a much larger company called Historic Tours of America. And Historic Tours of America is known as the nation's storyteller. Whoops. The nation's storyteller. We specialize in creating immersive historical experiences for travelers around the world. Historic Tours of America operates in 7 major cities throughout the country, including here in Washington, D.C. And it is a family of businesses and a family that the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum is proud to be part of. Our museum opened in 2012. And almost immediately, we set the bar very high for what an interactive and high-tech museum could be. Combining cutting-edge interactive technology and exhibits, live first-person interpretation, and a series of colonial artifacts, we are able to fully illustrate the comprehensive story of the Boston Tea Party. We also offer a virtual outreach educational experience that brings the story of the Boston Tea Party into classrooms around the world. Using Skype technology, we are able to, in real time, converse, answer questions, and interact with students across the nation and across the planet. We have actually Skyped with virtually every state in the country and have reached out to schools in the UK and even as far away as Australia. The Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum is also the proud producers of the annual reenactment of the Boston Tea Party, which takes place every year on December 16th. This event has become one of the largest moving theatrical productions in the nation and has also attracted thousands of spectators to line the shores of Boston Harbor every year. So the Boston Tea Party is an iconic American moment. And I think there are 2 reasons why the Boston Tea Party has grown the way it has in just 6 short years. The first is what we're teaching, and the second is how we're teaching it. As I said, the Boston Tea Party is that iconic moment that at least everyone knows a little bit about. We obviously learn in elementary school a lot about the Tea Party, but it is a very comprehensive and complex event. It's also an event that is taught in classrooms around the world. It is also a quintessential American event. Its broader themes tell us that if we don't like how we're being treated, well, there's something we can do about it. That feels good. Also, when we're learning this in elementary school, it's easy to see why these images, like the one you're looking at now, stick with us. So many times in a textbook, you see a historical image of a very serious general, or a battle, or something very dramatic like that. This is equally dramatic, but for a school child, this looks fun. There's a pageantry about it. People are raising their tricorner hats in the air. They're yelling, huzzah! There's even costumes involved. It looks like a party. It's easy to understand why this event sticks with us. However, the true story of the Boston Tea Party is a little bit more complex. But let's start where we learn in elementary school. First, we're told that we were being taxed by King George III and Parliament against our will. This taxation without representation led to boycotts and widespread protest. Taking matters into their own hands, the Sons of Liberty loosely disguised themselves as Mohawk Indians, marched down to Griffin's Wharf, boarded 3 ships, and threw 340 chests of tea into Boston Harbor. This event would catapult America down the road to revolution. Again, that's a pretty good assessment, and for the elementary school level, that's not bad at all. But as I said, the Boston Tea Party was a far more comprehensive event than that. This was something that involved deadlines, petitions, tax structures, financial structures, repeals, multiple ships, consignees, and much, much more. How do we tell that comprehensive story to an audience of millions of people from around the world? Well, you can see here that our Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum experience covers a wide range of historical concepts. Every single one of these bullet points is mentioned on a Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum tour, and every single bullet point could represent its own 10-minute presentation. How do we take all of this and condense it down to something that is accessible for hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world every year that come through our doors? Our tour is only about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes in length. Our interpreters have their work cut out for them to be able to tell this immersive story. Well, this quote, largely attributed to Benjamin Franklin, is our mission. It's our mantra. It says, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn." Involve me and I learn is, of course, the key sentence there. We want to involve every single guest that comes through our door at the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum in telling this comprehensive story. And the way that we do it is rather engaging and unique, which we're going to show you now.
Good day. Good day. Come on, we can do better than that. Good day. Good day.
There we
Very
are.
good. Now, my name is Sarah Bradley Fulton, and welcome to this meeting of the Body of the People.
I am Mr. Benjamin Eads, co-proprietor of the Boston Gazette and Country Journal.
And today we are going to teach you how to behave properly in a colonial town meeting. And so if there is something that you really like, I want to hear a hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
Or perhaps a well said.
Well said.
Or if there is something you really like, I want to hear a huzzah. Now, wait just a moment. There is something very important that goes along with this huzzah. I'm going to teach you the proper gesture. Put your arms up like this. Draw your fist back. Thrust your fist into the air and yell huzzah. So I will give a hip hip, and let's all do it together. Here we are, hip hip.
Huzzah!
Very good.
Now,
Very good.
contrary-wise, you might hear some things that are displeasurable. Dare I say, odious. Then you may respond as well by shouting FIE, F-I-E. And the proper way to do so is stick out your thumb, plant the flag, raise the flag, turn to the person you wish to insult most, and yell FIE. Very good.
Yes. Now, Mr. Eads, we know that daily at the Boston Gazette that you like to perhaps, rouse the rabble,
Indeed.
as they say, but I think we should perhaps end on a more positive note today. So let's try one more huzzah, shall we? Hip, hip.
Huzzah!
Very good.
Thank you very much, Ben and Sarah. So that is just a taste of the interactive beginning of our museum experience. So let's all just take a moment to think about what just happened there. Well, you all sat up straighter in your chairs. You all woke up. You all looked at each other. You all connected with your neighbor. You laughed, most of you. And, well, then for 1 minute, individuals sitting in their chairs now became a cohesive group. It may only have been for a moment or so, but in that moment you were together, and you created a shared experience. Teaching through creating these shared experiences is how we teach this complex and comprehensive information. Not every museum experience begins by asking their patrons to make funny faces, but we do, because it works. The Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum is not your standard type of museum. It is a museum of experience. We put our patrons in the middle of the story, whether they're ready for it or not. By the end of the experience, though, they're laughing, they're moved, they're engaged, and they retain the information. Every single customer that comes through our door receives a character card. This character card gives them the identity of a participant of the Boston Tea Party. They get to be that person throughout the entirety of their tour. Then everyone takes part in a dramatic town meeting to decide what to do with this cursed East India Company tea. Decision has been made to destroy it. You leave the meeting room, you march down to Griffin's Wharf, go aboard one of our 2 ships, and throw tea into Boston Harbor, at the very same location where the Boston Tea Party occurred 245 years ago. Then you learn about the aftermath of your decision to destroy the King's Tea through a series of high-tech, interactive, and hands-on exhibits. You'll see holograms of 2 ladies that discuss the merits of your actions as the destroyers of the tea, and learn more about the differences between Patriot and Tory. You'll see the Robinson tea chest, the only known surviving tea chest from the tea's destruction, as well as a vial of tea from the Boston Tea Party on loan to us from the famed Old North Church. You'll hear directly from King George himself and Samuel Adams exactly what they think about you destroying the tea. Using a series of letters and journal entries and writings, we have combined this narrative, which never happened in history, but King George and Samuel Adams come to life, and they engage with you as the destroyers of the tea. And the entire experience wraps up with a 12-minute multi-sensory film entitled Let It Begin Here, which connects the Boston Tea Party to the start of the American Revolution and the battles of Lexington and Concord. Much like everything else we do, this film is also immersive, with a wraparound movie screen putting you in the middle of the action. There are rumble strips in the floors, air cannons in the walls, so when the shot heard round the world is fired during those battles, you feel that musket ball whiz past your head. All of this is designed to give our audience a fully immersive, interactive, hands-on experience. We don't like whispering at the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum. We don't want museum voices. We want our patrons to be loud, to ask questions, to touch everything. Because, huzzah, madam, because that is how we learn. The experience even continues after the official experience is over. Upstairs in Abigail's tea room, we have a cafe and tea room where you can sample the 5 different types of teas destroyed during the Boston Tea Party, literally tasting history with these 5 historic blends. Our interpreters will also challenge you to 18th century board games like this 9-Man Morris, and use this as an opportunity to discuss with you what life was like in 18th century Boston and the people that lived there. Fundamentally, at the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum, we believe that there is so much more to history than just names and dates, and facts and figures. Those are important, and they serve a critical foundation to good history. But ultimately, those are only statistics. How do you involve your guests in statistics? Well, you can't really, unless you understand that those statistics are part of the fabric of a much larger story, an amazing story. And that's what history is, a collection of amazing stories. And what do we get in stories? Characters, of course. People. And what do we get with people? Well, passion, love, loss, risk, betrayal, victory, defeat, virtuous people, flawed people, complicated people. That is something your customers can relate to. I think we all know complicated people in our lives, and we all have similar experiences as part of our 21st century lives. Sarah Bradley Fulton and Benjamin Eads were real people, just as real as you and I are now, and just as real as the talented men and women that interpret their history. Here is a list of the participants of the Boston Tea Party as we know them now. Many names will forever be lost to history due to the secrecy of the event. But if you pick a name on that list, literally any single name, I bet you would be shocked at how similar your life is in the 21st century to their life in the 18th century. Of course, we have technology. We have our iPhones. We have things like that. Of course, they did not. But when you boil down our lives, we have some similar concerns, part of our human experience. Well, taking care of your family, making ends meet, and building a better future for yourselves and your community. That is something that all of us can relate to. That is what they lived, and that is what we are living now, part of this shared human experience. It is time to put the human back into our history and the way that we tell it. No matter whatever your organization, your school, your park, your museum is trying to do, if you find a way to add the human experience into it, couple that with technology, well, then you have a winning formula for today's modern audience. If you give your audience something intimate, something personal, and something that will stimulate all five senses, your audience will learn. They'll have more fun doing it. Our comment cards prove it. Every single comment card that we get, our CEO and our executive director read. I read them all as well. And what we see time and time and time again is them thanking our interpreters for being so open and so knowledgeable about the history. They then remark on the technology that our museum provides and how it complements that knowledge. And then everyone says they've had so much fun. That is critical as well. Our audience is better retaining the information because they were involved in learning the information. They were part of the teaching of it. They've retained it. TripAdvisor, our most recent TripAdvisor from this last year alone, shows the overwhelming amount of 5-star comments to the 1s and 2s. Obviously, you can't make everybody happy every single day. But what our museum does, it works. Our teaching methods work. And I guess the reality is this is the future of the museum industry, finding ways to educate these complex historical themes in ways that are engaging, are intimate, and are personal. And it's the future of the entertainment industry as well. And so, on behalf of the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum and Historic Tours of America, we are very honored to have been here today and honored to be considered leaders in this new industry. Thank you very much.